Well, hey everyone. So today I have decided to start a new series called Taking Action with Your Publishing. And I'm so excited because I have written, in case you don't know anything about me, my name is Tracee Garner, and I am a best-selling author, and I've written 22 books. I'm also a person with a disability who has all kinds of interruptions and needs help every single day. So my time is always being interrupted, and I'm sure yours is too by whatever you got going on. But the reason why I wanted to come on today is because I am finishing the Publishing Action Guide. And that is a book that I've had around forever. All of my books almost are always around forever, but I just keep working on them little by little and day by day. And eventually they get turned into full blown manuscripts. If you see me looking around, it's because I'm also streaming on YouTube. So I will be sending some snippets of these videos on, or posting some snippets of these videos on Instagram. And then you can come here and watch the entire thing whenever you want. I also am, I wouldn't consider myself a tech person, but lately I have been into ChatGPT and girl, your girl is loving it. And what I am especially using it for is just to outline some of my content. I don't use it for my writing. If I want to come up with ideas or I'm not sure about settings, then yes, I will ask it about things. But as far as actual writing, I love writing. I've written 22 books without ChatGPT. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do I ask for feedback on some passages of my writing? Of course, that is so fun to me to see what it has to say. But sometimes I'm like, you don't know what you talk about, chat? I call my chat Chap Gupta, GPT, but Gupta. Get it? Chat Gupta. And it's very knowledgeable, if you know what I mean. So today is the first day, first full session. They're going to be short. They won't be involved, but the real meat will be in the publishing action guide when it becomes available. So stick with these. Still going to give you a lot of great content, but eventually I do want you to get the book. And this is kind of a little primer or lead up to the book. Alrighty, so day one is, and remember, when I say day one, I really mean that's why I never go live because all of a sudden the juices in the mouth start flowing and your girl has to swallow. That's probably a muscular dystrophy thing, but I don't know. But I've been dealing with it forever. So as soon as I get on here, it just starts wreaking havoc. I don't know if like saliva glands are overactive. It's probably a pill for that. I don't want to take it. And you know, another thing that happens to me is my eyes start watering. I'm not even out in the sun. I do have allergies, but every time I go out or every time after I eat, it's like my father's fault. But my eyes just start watering. So if it looks like I'm crying, don't worry. I'm not crying, but I am swallowing a lot. My eyes are starting to get itchy and watery. And so, it's just a weird thing. You're gonna see a tear coming down my eye. But let's stick to it. Let's get to the meat. See that? I told you it was coming. I am not sad. I'm doing just fine. Okay. The first thing is really thinking about whether you are ready to publish. There are so many things that go into that. And honestly, that is something that stops a lot of people they never feel like they're ready. And honestly, I'm going to talk a lot about my own career and what I went through and what, I've done. I did enter a writing contest. This was 25 years ago, almost. And that's how long I've been in this game. I entered a writing contest, and so there really was no way to avoid pushing the button. And I'm going to tell you, please just push the button. The only way you're going to get feedback, the only way you're going to get information is to put yourself out there. Okay. I liken writing to having a new house and you're trying to decorate it and get everything just right before you invite people over. But honestly, get it to a point and then invite people over. The living room will change and evolve. In another 5 years, you won't have the same coloring wallpaper. You'll take down wallpaper and make pattern walls. Okay. Even as I read my books today that I absolutely loved, when I finished them at the time, I read my own books, not only for motivation to say, wow, you did that, you finished a project, especially towards the end of a new book. I'm like getting like, oh my God, I don't know if I can finish this. This doesn't look right. It's not going well. Always read your own work. But my point is that 5 years after I publish a book, I'm like, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I say this? Why didn't I put this in here? I have one book that still annoys me today. I could have such a great twist in the book where the cop seems like he's on the up and up. This is a woman that has been kidnapped. Okay. If you want to know about it, go read Deadly Affections. Okay. Dexter and Ledra. Alrighty. That is the third book in the Parker Brothers series, Dexter and Ledra. In that book, the cop is baffled over this case he couldn't solve. And he's at the open of the book, he's getting ready to retire. Okay. But he always thinks about that one case that he couldn't solve. And that is where the main character, the heroine, comes in. So she comes back to town. She's looking for something that happened to her sister. She is the only one and the hero that made it out of a foster care home alive, and other people were killed in that foster care uh, home that they lived in. Their parents were awful, and they ended up together, and she goes away on mercy ships, becomes a doctor, and is traveling for most of her life. And then one day she decides, I got to go back to Virginia. I want to know what happened to my sister, what happened to the family, and everyone that was in that foster care facility, all unrelated except for her and her sister. But she meets the guy that was also in the foster care facility with her. My point is that it would have been so cool, as I thought maybe 5, 10 years later, reading over this book, if the cop was mad at her for disappearing and never coming back before now. Like, I felt like he could have been mad because he's like, you waited until I retired. I was looking for you. You could have been the one case, the last case of my entire career that would have set it off and that would have made me look like a real hero for solving the case. He was a good cop. But I was just thinking at the end, they're riding the elevator after a press conference to say that they're going to reopen the case. And it would have been so cool if he got mad at her in the elevator and did something out of character. I was like, that would have been one last twist. And that's what I think about a lot of my books is like, how can I have one last twist at the end to really set this off? Something that no one is expecting, that this otherwise seemingly good cop all of a sudden has a moment where he just turns and is mad that she didn't come back sooner. She didn't rectify the case that he, labored over for years and years, 20 something years to be exact. And there was a bad guy, actually a real bad guy in the foster care facility. So that was a great one villain, but I just could have had one more. That is what you will always feel about your work, that you could have done a little more even after it's gone. Even after somebody leaves your living room, they could think it's beautiful. As soon as they leave, here you are changing the picture because you didn't like how it looked. Or maybe the person that visited you, depending how you feel about the person that visited you, you may think, she likes that picture. I'm going to get rid of it. I hate that picture. And she made me realize that I hate it. Like, you are going to have so many revelations after the fact, but you must move forward. So you want to ask yourself, are you ready to publish your book? Has it gone through all the things that it needs to go through? Editing. Are you going to have beta readers? What did they say? Did you implement their feedback? Did you get a freelance editor that you can pay for at any time and see what they had to say and how they fixed it and the questions that they had? There are a number of things that you need to do, and I'm going to give you a checklist for free of things that you need to do to see if you're ready. Not only are you looking at the book as far as readiness, you need to look at yourself. What if you put your book up tomorrow? Can you handle if it gets both good and negative reviews? Okay, all my books will have at least one negative review, and some of us are unadmittedly fragile. We cannot handle when people have negative things to say, and you really want to work on that. Hopefully, if you've been through beta readers, you've been through maybe an editor or two, you had a couple of objective reader type friends, not mom and dad and cousin Nancy. You've had a couple of people who can be objective and tell you the truth, like, wow, this is such a great plot and premise, but something's wrong with this character. She's kind of got no backbone. And instead of being, oh my God, how dare you? You need to be like, wow, thanks. That is great feedback. I'm going to work on her and see if I can write and read more about character development and see what she's missing. Okay, I'm also going to read more to learn what makes a strong character. So the readiness is not just the manuscript. That is completely important. I mean, when you read reviews, honestly, Nobody knows you're having a private tantrum because they said something negative, and you really will never and ever should respond to them. You can find who they are. You can look them up. Many of them have names, and they're people too, but you want to just be able to take it. Okay, I liken it to American Idol. You don't get up there and tell Simon Cowell you respectfully disagree. You just say, "Thank you for the feedback. I'll work on that." Or "thank you." Or you don't say anything. You just be quiet. I never liked the American Idol where people, responded. You're talking to the professionals. They made it in the business. You can respectfully disagree, but do so silently and in your head, if I'm being honest. So that is part of day one. You want to have a solid project and you want to make sure you're really ready. Part of being ready is to have a solid project and to have worked on yourself and your ability to take good quality constructive feedback. And remember, reviews are subjective. People don't like certain things. Even when you have a description that tells people all the things that the book is about, and even if you're in the right category, which is another thing you should be checking out, is what categories do your books fit in. You're going to need to know that if you're going to self-publish. A publishing house will put your categories for you and will pick them for you. But if you're self-publishing, you need to know where your book fits. And that is another part of being ready. So are you really ready to publish? Are you mentally, emotionally ready? And is your product, not your baby, but your product, ready to realize the light of day? Will it be able to stand? And will those who've already tested and read it have good things to say and think you're on the right track? And did you implement the feedback that you've already received? Okay, I'll see you next time. I'm going to do another one of these tomorrow, fingers crossed. There'll be 5 videos, and I will try to release them towards the end of the day, every day after work, of course. And ask me questions, put comments in the chat. Let me know what you think and post any questions. What's on your readiness checklist? How did you know you were ready to publish if you've done one book or if you've done 40 books? How did you know you were ready to publish your book? And how did you build your resolve to accept and receive with grace and kindness the feedback that people gave you over your first or couple first books? Alrighty, take care.